Hey everyone, it's me again, and I'm here to just briefly give you a review of January and how it was compared to normal Januaries that we're supposed to have across the US. And just to let you know, last January was not really all that on the average side of things this year. It was extremely warm for pretty much the whole entire country. The only place that we pretty much saw any cold air was the upper Midwest and over into the Rockies and stuff. But pretty much the rest of the country saw temperatures 4 to 5 degrees above average for the whole entire month. So we saw 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s across the Gulf states. So it was a pretty darn warm month for January, and it'll probably be one of the top 5 warmest Januaries on record, and those records go back back into the 1960s. So it's about 50 years of data that we're going against, and this past January is probably going to end up being one of the top 5 warmest since records began. Other than that, we also saw a lot of tornadoes and severe weather. It was one of the busiest or active Januaries on record as well, where we saw over 100 reports of tornadoes, which doesn't really happen in January because it's supposed to be a snowy month and not a really severe tornadic month. With that being said, on the snow side of things, there was like really nothing except for the Pacific Northwest and a couple fast moving clippers and small storms across the plains, upper Midwest into the Great Lakes and interior Northeast. The South and Mid-Atlantic really did not see any snow, unfortunately, for January. A little bit here and there in the Mid-Atlantic, but the South saw nothing. They just saw spring-like temperatures with flowers popping out everywhere and bees hovering around. It was just April down in the South for January. So that was pretty much the whole review on January, and the past couple years, you're probably like, oh my god, well, it was so cold, and why so warm and stuff. Well, there's this thing called the Arctic Oscillation, which turned out to be in more of a positive phase than a negative phase this year, and when it's in a positive phase, you tend not to see that there's a Greenland high that sets up around the Hudson Bay area in Canada, and the high kind of sags southward into the upper Midwest and into the east, where that happened the past 2 winters ago, and that's called the Greenland High Block, or the Greenland High, and it just kind of slugs down during parts of January and February and gives the cold temperatures along with the snowy conditions. This year, it really did not set up, so instead we just saw a surge of warm air from the south. That's why January was just a lot warmer than expected. And I looked at a couple models over the past day, and for the next 2 weeks, it looks like besides the new storm that's coming out of the Rockies that could bring a foot or more of snow to Denver and places in Kansas and Nebraska this upcoming weekend on the 4th and 5th of February. Other than that, the rest of the Midwest and eastern part of the country is going to be relatively quiet and mild. Temperatures will be probably running about 5 to 15 degrees above average for the next 2 weeks across those areas. And the activity on the West Coast will also start ramping up a little more as February goes on in the next 2 weeks. We are expecting, however, the middle of February that we have some cold air coming into the region, into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast, and hopefully we get a storm out of that and it produces some snow for drought-stricken areas or snow drought-stricken areas, whatever you want to say about lack of snow areas. I don't know. So we're hoping, or we're seeing with the models, that around February 15th or 16th, halfway through the month, obviously, that we are going to get, hopefully, a good dose of snow and a fresh batch of cold air that comes into at least part of the northern to eastern part of the country. And unfortunately, if you like cold temperatures in the rest of the part of the country, not really going to happen so much for the first 2 parts first 2 weeks, not parts. The first part of February, the first 2 weeks, there you go, of February, it's not really going to happen. I kind of just confused myself there between parts and weeks. I don't know. So, with that being said, oh, and Pucks and Honey Phil, he said 6 more weeks of winter. I say, or other people are saying 6 more weeks of like non-winter, just because not a whole lot of cold air is going to come into the picture, at least for the next 2 weeks or so. So, don't know exactly where Phil was going on that forecast, but nevertheless, that's what he predicted. And, well, maybe we'll get a good dose of snow and a shot of cold air the latter part of February. So I'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks and give you the spring outlook.